In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today, I am deeply honored to have on this show a renowned author, Michael Buzinski, or Buzz, who is an agency owner, burgeoning expert in AI as we continue to develop it, and an all-around good guy. And I'm really happy to have you on the show, Buzz. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Emanuel.
Anything else you want to say about your background that will help us understand you?
It's funny because it's when you own a marketing firm, everybody assumes it's an agency, and actually, I own an anti-agency.
Fair enough. All right.
I ran a multi-seven-figure creative agency in the 2010s, and I actually shut it down in 2018 and started a marketing firm. And people are like, "Well, what's the difference?"
Yeah,
right?
let's dig into the difference.
So agencies are creative agencies specifically are those who create the marketing materials and deploy them, right? So they're going to have graphic designers. They have the web developers. They have audio and video departments, usually the whole 9 yards. We had even a print shop, in-house print shop, where we did small and large format printing, CD duplication, then the USB duplication, large format printing. We did, this was just in one department, right? Like, so we had all these things. And the problem with it is that you have to maintain basically five, in our case, 5 different businesses.
For sure. Yep. I got you.
And in agency world is a very high paced, we're always saying yes, the whole 9 yards. When you work with a marketing firm, you're usually working with either a fractional CMO or a strategist or consultant or a coach. Okay. Yeah. Usually they're consultants in a firm. Coaches are usually the reserved for the solopreneurs, right? So when you're talking about a firm, you're talking about multiple people. I have a team of 8 plus we have some ancillary support around us for the specialized things that I refuse to be too much, right? I'm like, this is what we do really well. This is where we're going to stay. And so when you have a firm that does that, you're usually working with somebody or a team that is focused on strategy versus tactics. Yeah. And I see agencies, though they will go into strategy, they will not force their clients to have a strategy before they engage them for tactics. Yeah. And I have a firm belief that sound strategy will beat blind tactics every single time.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
That might be a little bit.
That's cool, but that might come from your military background too, I would imagine.
Maybe a little bit. Yes. There you go. In music too, though, like, in any media production, you can't just go in and go, we're going to create something. Okay. What are you going to create? Right. We're going to create a movie. Well, what kind of movie are you going to create? I mean, like anything that you create, and marketing is a creative, it is where creative and analytics come together, right? Yep. And so I think that people just underestimate the amount of planning, the amount of strategy, and the amount of thinking and forward thinking, if you will, and all of the things that go into like launching a successful campaign, regardless of what it is.
I love it. I'm interested to hear, what is your step 1 of strategy development?
So my step 1 of strategy development, it actually goes back to my book, The Rule of 26, because we need to identify where you need help, right? So you have three phases of business. There, if you go to the American Business Association, ABA, and stuff like that, they'll talk about a life cycle of a business, which has, I think, 5 or maybe 6 from inception to sell. right? Or closing, right?
Yep.
For me, the entrepreneur's journey is 3 steps and 3 phases. The first is financial independence. Usually somebody's coming in for freedom or independence, right? They think they don't want a boss, or they just want to be able to do what they want to do, right? And they think that entrepreneurial freedom is what they're going into business for, which is one of the phases. But your first phase to get there is financial independence. You have to be able to pay the bills on call. Like,
Yeah.
I need to make this kind of money. Boom,
Right.
go. Once you have that ability, you have financial independence, right? So in the financial independence phase of your business, there's a lot of things that you're going to do wrong just to get the money, right? You're going to take all the business you possibly can because you just need to pay the bills,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But once you have figured out what makes you financially independent, then you go into the phase of entrepreneurial freedom. Entrepreneurial freedom allows you to then play around with things in your business, around your business, do joint ventures, and all these other things that CEOs do to then leverage their growth, because you do brute force getting it a financial independent, then you finesse and leverage your abilities to get entrepreneurial freedom. And once you have that entrepreneurial freedom, then you move into the third phase of being an entrepreneur, which is the dream to drive impact.
All right.
You want to drive impact at that point, right? And so when we're working with a firm, but coming into us, because we work specifically with B2B service providers. Okay. So we work with other types of consultants, fractionals, business services like CPAs, law, stuff like that. Right.
Yep. Sure.
So when we go in there, first we need to find out where you're at. Are you just looking to add revenue because you don't have enough revenue to do the things you actually want to do with your business? That right there creates a different direction for strategy than I want entrepreneurial freedom, right? Because my strategies when we're going into financial independence would be brute force, right? Grassroots marketing, networking and social media networking, all these things that go around, because usually at that point they have more time than money.
Right.
So if I give you a strategy, it's going to take a lot of money, and you're like, I don't got any money. I got all the time you want.
Right.
I'll give you all 24 hours, but I can't give you a dime.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go, okay, go read my book.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
buy the book
I mean,
and read it. Yes.
Right. Exactly. Right. But now if they're in entrepreneurial freedom, now they're looking to leverage they're trying to buy back their time. Now they have a little bit more money. They probably have more money than time. Right.
Yep.
And so the strategies are much different there. And when you're trying to drive impact, you're actually looking, like, for me, I'm in impact mode. I only work with very specific types of people because of the impact I'm looking to make. I work with B2Bs because every person I help creates an infinite or a cascading amount of jobs down the line. Right. I grow my business, it creates creates jobs. When I grow my client's business, that creates jobs. When they grow, when they help their clients, it creates jobs.
Yep. I love it.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, I have a military background. Yeah, I believe in serving my country. This is how I serve my country.
Yeah.
Is creating jobs. And creating middle class jobs, because we don't have enough of them to support a strong middle class. And middle class is the key to a strong economy. That's what's missing right now. And I'm like, how do I help? I'm just a stupid marketer. How do I help? I was like, well, maybe if I helped other stupid business owners get through this thing, because we're all dumb. We're all just trying to figure it out, right? Like, when it comes to, like, I just hired a COO because I'm like, you know what? I'm really good at marketing, but I'm not the best at the consistency it takes to run the operations. Like,
well, I love that. I love that. I love that you're looking around and saying, hey, I'm really good at this thing. I'm really not so good at this thing. I need to fill this gap, because that not everybody wants to have that conversation with themselves, right?
They're not ready for entrepreneurial freedom.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because you have the people. I mean, I talk to people all the time that own a job.
Yeah,
and I know what that looks like. I owned a job with a multi-7-figure creative agency, 22 employees, 13,000 square foot facility, a whole 9 yards. And I owned a job, and I hated my boss. He was an ass.
Yeah, right. Well, I say, I'm unmanageable. So I work for the government, right? Because I'm always writing that check.
Yeah, for
Oh,
me, joining the Air Force was more about getting out of California and figuring out what else was available, right? And
yep.
getting an education was really there. I'm third generation Air Corps,
Yeah.
so
Cool.
my grandfather uh, was in World War II. My parents both served during Korea. Vietnam. I'm sorry, during Vietnam. I served through a few wars myself in the 10 years I was in. And yeah, I think that you definitely get that structure. But guess what? It's funny because when I first got out, I started my business as a recording studio. And so I quickly realized that surviving off of starving musicians was a bad business plan,
Yeah,
but I
right.
love music. I was a working musician for 15 years through all of
Nice.
the things that I did in
Yeah.
my teens and my early 20s. So yeah, I think that everybody's finding their way. And if they don't look around and see what is holding them back, then they're doing themselves and anybody else that is interacting with them a disjustice.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think this time is as dynamic of a business environment as I've seen in my life for sure, and that's all I can really speak to. But I know that you've done a kind of a deep dive into AI
Oh yeah.
and about what's going on in the world of marketing and AI, and just share a little bit about what you're seeing out there from the work that you're doing with other people in AI.
Well, we're finding that AI is a great lever. It creates so much leverage. And the problem with AI is that it has the illusion of efficiency
Uh-huh.
for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing,
Right.
right?
Yep.
I think of like a sports car. A sports car is inherently fast. Anybody can get into it, right? And push the pedal, go
Yep.
fast.
Right.
But somebody who knows how to work the gears, hug the turns just right, all of those things can go much faster in the same exact car, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think that AI is that. It is a sports car that most people don't know how to handle. They don't know how to milk out the horsepower that's there and all that good stuff. So, really good marketers are getting infinite value,
Yep.
immediately infinite value from AI because they know what they're looking for. They know when something gets spit out from AI going, that's trash,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And
For
they're
sure.
and we know what questions to ask because we've been asking them of our clients
Yep.
for me 19 years.
Yeah.
Like those are the questions you have to ask AI because I relate AI as a 5-year-old who knows has all the information of the world,
Yep.
has no idea how the world works around him,
Yeah. It's
right?
like that scene from Good Will Hunting, right, with Robin Williams, and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Yeah, you know all this data, but you've never smelled what a painting
Yes.
smells like," right? Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and AI is exactly that. I call him a 5-year-old, and I call him a 5-year-old because you gotta talk to it like a 5-year-old.
Right.
You gotta walk it through things as a 5. You can't just sit there and go, "Act as a PhD student of physics and tell me blah, 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 blah." No, it's like, okay, think as a physics professor, and then you give them the objective, but you gotta give them context. If you don't
Right.
give them the context, the question is now left wide open
Yep.
for what is called
Yep.
hallucinations, right?
Right.
AI
Yep.
hallucinates all the time, and most of it is user driven because
Right.
they've either asked too much of it too soon,
Yep.
they didn't give them the right information, or they didn't give them enough information.
Yep. I love it. Yeah. So the prompt engineering is going to be the critical part of these tools for the foreseeable future. Would you agree with that?
I think there are two roads that generative AI, let's narrow it down. There's so much
Yeah,
AI
for
out there.
sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
generative AI, I think, is going to go down two roads. One is promptless AI, and we're definitely going to see a lot more of that. It will be the more expensive version of it because people will have trained the bots to do most of the preliminary work of going, okay, you're going to do this, right?
Yep. Yep.
I use GPTs and I've just recently started using Claude projects, okay,
Uh-huh. Cool.
to do the same thing, right? The nice thing is now, I mean, the AI will actually help you write its own prompts.
Right. Yep.
So I think that prompt engineering is going to be for the higher level of computing that's going to happen in software packs. So if you're in a CRM and you plug in an AI, the AI is going to be, you're going to need all these prompts to then work with whatever that CRM package is.
Yep.
That then when you say, create a new contact and make them this, that, and you just talk to your CRM and it does all of the things. Now, I want you to make sure that when they're 2 weeks before their birthday, they get a text from me and I do this and you get that and dot, 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 dot. But you just have to do this instead of having to click into 5 different places. And it creates all the automations for everything, right?
Yep.
And it can undo things. Hey, this happened. I don't want this to happen, dot, dot, dot. It undoes things and then rebuilds it correctly, right? Just like if you're in a GPT, right? You start out, it's like, hey, I want you to write like me. Okay, well, give me something you've written. Okay, here's some stuff I've written. What do you get from what you've read here? Oh, you're an informal speaker and blah, blah, and you like to talk about this and dot, 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 dot. That's great. Write me out a paragraph of blah, 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 blah. Not because you're now testing what it knows, right? And then it comes back and you're like, oh, I never use that word. Never use this word when you're writing like me.
The exclusion list, is so critical.
But it does the prompt for you now, right? And so you don't have to worry about, like, there's still people out there selling prompt lists, right? And personally, I think they're trash. Because if you don't know what that prompt is actually, what it's doing, like the innards of it, like you can't look through the prompt and go, okay, I see the logic that's going on here. Unless they built that thing to then ask you the right questions so that it can do what it's supposed to do, it's trash. Most of them are. I'm sorry. And that's why the people who are good at it give it away, because they know it's not worth anything unless you know what you're doing with it.
And the specificity that you're describing is really the critical part, right?
Exactly.
And that's the magic sauce that exists in your brain and my brain from having been marketers for all this time.
Exactly. And I think that there's a lot of marketers that have done themselves a disjustice during the early teens, like the people who came in just 10 years ago into marketing. They came in during the heyday when it was like all the algorithms are doing all the work for you.
Yeah, right.
So you could just, you start up an agency, right? And all you're doing really is letting somebody else do the work. That's what agency means.
Oh, right.
Right. Yeah. Is you're just like, hey, hire me to find the work to get done. Right. That's agency. So you're basically hiring me in the early teens, mid-teens, when Facebook, Instagram, all those guys were in their heyday of third-party data. You could just give me your money. I'll make sure you get a return on investment. Right. And the end user had no idea that, it'll actually do it for me as well. But they don't know what they don't know, right? And so they would just pop it in and say, I want this type of person and this profile, blah, 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 and their algorithm did everything for you. If you had enough money, you were making money. Then it was iOS 14 came out and negated all third-party data.
Right.
Now, all those people who spend 4, 5, 6, 7 years as marketers, quote unquote, they have no fundamentals. You got to go back to the fundamentals, right? The basics.
I love it. Absolutely.
Right? Well, crap. By then, I'd already had, by then I'd had over 20 years of fundamentals. But in business, I'd already had 12, 13 years of practicing those fundamentals for my own business. So when it all crashed, we're like, oh, well, so what? Everybody else is like, I had friends who lost $1 million companies overnight. Boom. Right. And I'm like, I feel really bad for you, but what did you think? I mean, for all of the easy stuff in life will come to an end, right? It's only the things that you bleed, sweat, blood, and tears work for that can have that the statutiveness and outlast you, right? Yep. But if it comes super easy, as easy can come, easy go, right? There's an old saying about that. AI is the same way. If it's easy to use, it will be usurped very soon. Do not wrap your business around something that will be usurped very soon.
You have to have marginal utility at all times. Well, that's cool. I love it. Let's see. Just give me 1 or 2 other tools that you're using right now that people should be taking a look at and getting value out of.
I really like when people are using the note takers in their meetings. I think Fathom is one, or Phantom. Phantom is one of them that I've seen a lot of.
Okay.
Me personally, I just have my we use Google Meet when we make meetings, take
Yep.
meetings, and I just use the transcription,
Yep.
and then I pop that into my chat GPT that is trained to do certain things. But Phantom is a really good one because you'll get an email afterwards that will line out your action items
Yep.
and your key points to the meetings and stuff like that. And I think that's really good. And then you want to keep collecting this information. This is the age of first party data.
Right.
Okay. So if you're doing sales, you're doing marketing, you're doing operations, anything like that, and you're having meetings about those, you need to get the transcriptions from each of those types of meetings, put them in folders so that later on you can throw them into an AI machine that will then crunch all of that data and go, okay, what are the next steps of what we're trying to do?
Yeah.
Given all the things that we've been through, what are we missing?
Yeah. I
Right?
love that. Yep.
Right?
Yeah. What are
But
my
if you don't
gaps? Yeah.
but if you don't collect the information along the way, it's just your memory, and
Yep.
your memory gets worse and worse for every day away from the event happening,
Absolutely. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
That just solidifies that what happened that day between everybody, and you can go in there. I've done it with I've done it with my marketing research where I'll just record 10-minute conversations with people who I'm doing marketing research on. And then I
Yep.
take all of those and I go, what is the commonalities between all of these 20 companies?
Yeah.
Well,
Right. So
these
you're
are the
building
commonalities.
an ICP from that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. What are
Awesome.
the biggest pain points? What are the
Yeah.
most common pain points? What are the rare pain points? How do you see this? And then you can just start having this conversation. No prompts needed. You just
Right.
you start talking to it at that point. But it
Right.
needs that data that's very concise and in what you're talking about to do that for you. But I mean, you're talking what used to take weeks to do market research. I would say months, actually. Months now takes a week, 2 weeks.
Yep. And then churning that into usable content that
Actionable.
then go build into something
Mm.
is almost instantaneous.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the real work. Everybody needs to remember that AI is not going to market for you. It's
Right.
going to give you the information so you can market better.
Yep. I love it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I use Otter. I really like that one.
Otter's another one. I love it.
And I love it because I get the bullet points and all that
Mhm,
stuff, and
mhm.
it's concise. One other tool that you're using in your day to day or with your team.
Well, there is one what is it called? We just started using it. It's Boodle, not Boodle. Is it Bootbox? It gosh darn it. Now you put me on the spot and I can't remember what it's called. But there is one called Zoe, ZOE.ai. It does the same thing. What it is a aggregator of multiple AI engines.
Nice. Yep.
And so you go in and basically choose which engine you want to use. So say you started with ChatGPT, you put it in there. Okay, but you're
Yep.
like, but I want it to act like ChatGPT 3.5 versus 4.0.
Right.
Then you're like, okay, great. So you do it. Now do that same thing, but act as Claude. But I want you to
Right.
be Opus 1 versus Opus 3.
Wow.
Right.
That's
And
very
so now
specific.
you're seeing which engines will work best, generative AI will work best for what you're working on.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can have that project as like, okay, well, when I have that chat's always going to use this engine.
I
Right.
love it.
Because
Yep.
not every new iteration of your AI bots are going to be the best for what you're doing.
Right.
Because they're teaching it to do more things, and you're like, I needed to do less things, maybe. I
Right.
needed to think a different way. I needed to approach the logic a different way, and that's every one of those iterations does something different to the logic. So I love those. You know, there's a bunch of them out there, and the nice thing about those is that you only pay like $20 a month for the pro versions, and
Yep.
you get access to all of them.
Right.
And then if you find yourself using just one or two on a regular basis, then go and just buy those specifically because you will run out of credits. But
Right.
it's a great way to test a lot of engines and see which one works best for you.
And I think that's a great point, is just this testing,
Always
because
testing.
all of these things are changing every day.
Yeah.
And so, like you're just describing the GPTs and their different iterations,
Yeah.
whatever software you're using is getting more information, more data, more testing on their side. And so we as marketers have got to really stay dynamic and stay with it as it drifts.
100%, 100%. I know I think that in my next book, which is going to be the simple marketing method, where we break down the 6 phases of marketing for B2B businesses, we're going to be putting in how to utilize AI in a couple of the phases that will really help people as far as that goes.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So you got that. What's the kind of the timeline for this new book? Because I'm excited.
I'll be within the next year. Yeah, we don't have a pre-order yet, but if you follow us on the social medias at Buzzworthy, you are Buzzworthy. The letter U, the letter R, and then the word Buzzworthy. If you do that at You Are Buzzworthy for both Facebook and for Instagram, we're there. Buzzworthy Marketing on LinkedIn. And you can check out my book at ruleof26.com.
I love it. Michael Buzinski with 1 Z. And although you do go by Buzz, and I really
with 2 Z's.
I appreciate your time with 1 T. And I hope that I could convince you to come back on in another few months and we see what's changed in your world and what new things you've learned.
I would love to do it. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, Buzz, I really do appreciate it. And I hope you have a great week.
Thanks.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.